Hi, my name is Hakam Zerubbabel, and I live with the 12 tribes, communities that serve night and day to worship God. And I can tell you that I started off not even believing in God. In fact, I should probably tell you my father's testimony first, because he's a big picture of why I am the way I am and why I live with the community. And I'm just really thankful for him. He the way he raised me was very helpful in that sense. And so I want to start off by talking about him. And he was raised in a very poor family, and he would tell me stories as I was growing up about just all different ways that he was trying to basically make a living off of some, just try to, make things work in China. That's where he grew up. And so his family is really poor, and they didn't have many means. And so there was all these ways that he tried to scratch off, just a little bit more, and try to survive. Really, it was a matter of survival in China for him. And so he learned to be really resourceful. Let's just say that. And so eventually, I guess as he got to his 20s, he decided to come to America because he realized that was the land of opportunity. And so he had just enough money. Somehow he just made just enough money to be able to buy a plane ticket here. And once he got here, he had to panhandle for money because apparently he was supposed to go to the University of Idaho. That's where he was appointed to be. And so he panhandled for money at the airport and got enough for a train ticket to get to the University of Idaho, or around that area, I guess. And so he was there, and somehow from there on out, I guess he had really good grades or something, and he transferred to NYU. He made it to New York, and he graduated from there, a business major, and eventually he ended up working on Wall Street as an investment banker. And so you could see, if you just by this little short snippet of my father's life, just the way he was, how resourceful he was, and how determined he was to survive. To really, it was a classic rags to riches story. And so that's how he lived. And he had the same expectation for his children. He lived his life in such a way that he expected his children to do better, to surpass him. And that's a really righteous quality in my father, and I was really thankful for that, because he raised me strict, and I could be forever indebted to my father because of it. But he had very lofty ideals. In fact, he wanted me to go to Ivy League universities and attend one of them at least. But I didn't really have that kind of drive in me. Somehow, maybe it was just growing up in America, or somehow my ideals were different. And he pushed me hard. He pushed me hard to succeed academically and eventually succeed financially. I mean, that was his goal. But somehow there was something in me that wasn't really satisfied with that. And so, growing up, I was taught many things, and really one of them is to work hard. And so I was working hard, but I really didn't have a sense of purpose, really. I mean, I really wasn't interested in the things that were going out, the careers and all these different jobs that people had. I didn't see myself fitting into any role in that sense. But the one thing I really yearned for, and it came at the expense of how I was raised, but one thing I really yearned for was true friends and people that would stick by my side through thick and thin. And that was really what was valuable to me. I actually had a dream that one day, it didn't matter what kind of job I had, or it didn't really matter to me. It was just a matter of getting a really nice house with a bunch of my friends and their own families and my own family, and we just gathered together in that house. We lived together in that house, and then every weekend we could gather together, and at that point in time, all I could think of was just gather together for a sports event and watch a sports event. But I think my heart was just that I didn't want to see separation happen. I really appreciated the people around me, my friends, the people that had wise words to say to me when I was down, or just really thankful for relationships, and that's really what I valued more than anything else. And so being pushed hard to succeed academically meant that my father was saying to me that your future success is worth much more than any friends you could ever get in school. And so that went directly against the grain, of my matrix. And so as the years go by, and I was, I grew up in a Chinatown, and so I was surrounded by Chinese culture. And I don't know if you know what it's like to be a Chinese American, but I can tell you this, that there's high expectations, and part of the culture is just being able to succeed in the world so that you can provide for your family. And so my father had that same expectation for me, and so he became more and more disappointed, and we fought as time went on, because I wasn't performing to his expectations. In fact, I didn't even know how to meet his expectations. His expectations that kept going higher and higher, and I grew more and more hopeless at who I was and who I was going to become. And really, those things didn't matter to me in the end too much. I really respected my father, and I really wanted to meet up to his expectations, but at the same time, it was very difficult. And so we grew estranged from one another, and so eventually I went to college, and after spending 4 years in high school and just being more and more depressed, growing more and more hopeless at who I was, and just according to my father, we had fought so much during those years that we were embittered against one another. We couldn't even trust one another, and so that really hurt me, And so I went to college, and I was just left to myself, really. I mean, my parents weren't there, and so I was just alone, and I just cast off all restraint, I guess you could say. and I just partied, and I drank, and I did all those things, that seemed like made people in the world so happy. Just all those things, and eventually I failed all my classes in school in my freshman year of college, because I really appreciate being around people, but I didn't appreciate going to class and sitting in a lecture hall and listening to a monotone voice. And so I was there, and I failed all my classes, and so eventually I got this letter from the school saying that I was academically suspended for a year. So I couldn't go back to school for another year. And so I didn't have many options. I could have let my parents know, because I know, especially with the relationship I already had with my father, it was going to be difficult to tell him those words, because he had really high expectations for me. But to tell him that I failed out of college, that I flunked out, would be to him would be the equivalent of the end of the world. And I know that he would have been really disappointed in me. And I couldn't bear that feeling, and so I didn't tell them. I didn't tell them that I had flunked out of college. So eventually, during that summer, I was looking for a place to be, something to do during that time, even get an apartment, or just find a place to be, but it wouldn't reveal the fact that I flunked out of college. And so eventually I went to this website, called HelpX. And the original reason why I found it was because I was looking up on Google and I was searching for a place to be, I didn't have enough money for an apartment necessarily, but I was looking to maybe help somebody, maybe serve somebody, maybe just volunteer work, and maybe, just maybe, they would just let me live somewhere, live in some kind of lodging quarters, and so I was looking this up on the internet and eventually found this website called HelpX. And HelpX is this website that allows a host to put up an entry for volunteers to work at their place. Or it could be a homestead, or it could be a restaurant, or it could be a farm, it could be Airbnb. And you volunteer there as part of the agreement online, and in exchange they would give you lodging or food or both. And so that's what I did. I ended up doing that, and lo and behold, the first thing I found when I was in HelpX was this entry, and it was for the Yellow Deli in Oneonta. And unbeknownst to me, this Yellow Deli was filled of really loving, caring people that really want to serve God with all their hearts. So anyway, long story short, I ended up going there just a week before I was supposedly going back to school, and my parents didn't know. And I took a bus up to Oneonta, and I was there, and I was just immediately floored as I entered into that Yellow Deli, how beautiful it was. And it was like an otherworldly experience. It was just, you stepped in and it was just soft amber lights, and just the woodwork was so beautiful, and then the people had these big smiles on their faces, and you could tell by the smiles on their faces they weren't fake, they weren't put on. It was genuine. And that's something that was so unusual to me. It's something I had never seen before. Usually if someone's really friendly to you, it's because they want to take advantage of you. And that's what I learned growing up in New York City, in Brooklyn, for 20 years of my life. And so I was there, and I was there for 3 months, and I came into a situation not even believing that there was a God, and there would be some people that would tell me about God, but just from what you learn in public school, you just learn that, God doesn't exist, and evolution is a fact, and all these things really, that go against what's innate in a human being, to understand that there is a creator. And so I was coming to a situation like that, and I was even a little bit irritated that some people were coming to me about the fact that there's a savior and that there is a creator, and I just thought all those things were hocus pocus, made up. And I didn't say much at that time. I was just listening, but inside I was thinking those things. And so, but all along this time, I was being loved. There are people that are just genuinely taking care of me, beyond what they were required to do as part of the contractual agreement for HelpX. And so I was there for 3 months, and I decided to go, And so I went down to Virginia, and this was through HelpX too. So I was going down there to meet another host and to fulfill another agreement there. And when I was down there, I couldn't help but just remember all these times that people just loved me. I couldn't stop remembering all these songs that we sang in our gatherings. I couldn't stop remembering just how much they just really treated me like, some of them were older members of the community, and they just treated me like I was their son. And the first thing I did there was help the bakery over there and help bake, and they just invested into me, and they didn't require anything of me. It's just no cost, it was just their hearts turned towards me, and they just wanted to pour whatever was in them into me. And it's not like I deserved it or anything. I mean, I was there for 3 months, but I wasn't exactly the most easy person to get along with necessarily. But But I couldn't stop remembering those things on the bus ride down to Virginia. And then I looked around me, and I saw how people were talking to one another, relating to one another, interacting with one another. And I just saw, it was so clear to me at that point in time that there was selfishness lodged in every single human being. And it was impossible for them to get out of it. Actually, in high school, I had this epiphany, you could say, that I was going to be exactly like my father, you know? And no matter how much I didn't get along with my father, I was going to be exactly like him when I grew up. And when I was a full, mature adult, I was going to be just like my father. And I couldn't get out of it, even though there were so many things I didn't like about him because of our relationship. And so I realized that there was selfishness in me. And so I was down there, and it was, I guess I'll just make it a long story short. It was a not so pleasant experience, and eventually I asked the host there if I could come back to Oneonta, because I really missed it there. You know, I missed the friends I had over there, and even though I didn't believe in God, I knew there was something special about what they were doing. You know, there was something really special about it, something really precious. And so I begged him, and he eventually got me a ticket back to New York City. And from there, I got some of my friends over there in New York City to buy me a ticket back to Oneonta. And I went to Oneonta, came back to Delhi, a little bit more humble and a little bit more receptive to what they were saying. And I couldn't deny it. There was fruit, you know, there was actual fruit in what they were doing. You know, the fact that they were loving people without reserve, without condition, just healed people. And I could sense there was a little bit of that healing starting to develop in my soul. You know, just the damage that occurred over years of just not having proper relationships with people, properly loving people the way I should have as a human being. And I just started listening more and more, and eventually I started falling in love with the people there, and you know, the message that they were saying, that there's forgiveness, there's actual forgiveness for all the wrongdoings of your life, you know, and as long as you confessed our Father, you know, God, He would just wipe it away, wipe your slate clean. And that just brought me so much hope, because I knew there have been ways that I had hurt people, I had injured people's souls, you know, just with the way I was, and that was something undeniable. Whether or not, you know, even the concept of God was real to me at that point, I knew that there was healing, and that forgiveness actually brings healing, and that was something I was experiencing there. And so it took me a lot to come into the community and be a disciple, because it took me 9 or 10 months of really pondering, of really considering of what I was doing, because it's not a membership. It's not a membership. It's not like you could just sign a contract saying, I'm going to be a disciple for just a couple months. You know, it's not like that. It's giving up your entire life, surrendering all, you know, and we surrender all our possessions out of love, but it's more than just the physical possessions that we have, which I didn't even have much of that. It's what's in our mind, you know, the intellectual possessions that we have, and we just surrender it all, and we allow the people of the community just handle our lives, and there it brings healing. Through that, it brings healing, and that brought me so much hope. So anyway, I came into the community, or at least I met the community in late August of 2016, and I was baptized in July 2017, and now I'm here. I'm here in the community, and I'm just joyfully serving, and you know, just thankful, really thankful for the people around me, because you know, it's hard to find true friends in the world. It's hard to find forgiveness, you know, but when that's there in a loving community of people, you know, in the 12 tribes, in the body of Messiah, there's real healing, and relationships get healed. And I have hope that one day my relationship with my father get healed too. So just thankful for that.